Welcome to If You Live It. Welcome to a conversation where we're diving deeper into neutrality, deeper into higher levels of consciousness, deeper into happiness, joy, peace, freedom from the ego, freedom from the mind, freedom from our attachments to it, freedom from belief systems, where we're coming from a place where the sun is shining on our face now, where we're no longer a slave to the lower levels of the ego, shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, pride, anger. We have transcended that. We're coming from a place where we have moved past courage, and now we're into a world that is a beautiful place to find yourself. If you are coming from a place of neutrality, you're coming from a place of being okay if something works out and okay if it doesn't. You're finding yourself on middle ground, on an even playing field, at the 50-yard line, looking left, looking right. You're finding yourself at a place where whatever God does with your life is what God would do with your life. You have surrendered over your will in step 3. You have looked back and created a fearless and searching moral inventory in step 4. You have delivered that information to God, to yourself, and to another out loud in step 5. And now we're finding ourselves in step 6, chapter 6 of If You Live It, diving deeper into what it means to be neutral. Some of you may be saying, why is neutrality a higher level to come from than courage? I would say go look at Dr. Hawkins' work. Go listen to his lectures. Go read his books. We're not going to dive into the workings of consciousness today from that particular degree or that angle. But what we are going to say is that coming from a place of neutrality is a higher level of operating within this world where more joy is present than coming from a place of courage. It doesn't mean courage is bad. It doesn't mean that you're wrong to be having thoughts of why would one be higher than the other. And it doesn't mean that one is above the other. What it means is when we talk about growing closer to God, every single level of consciousness that we can evolve upwards and escalate towards and be within and be for the world and actually be means that more love is present in our life. More love comes through us for the world. Every time we go up, we're getting closer and closer to a realization of God as self. We're going closer and closer to the sun. We're growing more in love with something greater than ourselves. The higher one moves on Dr. Hawkins' map of consciousness, which isn't a contrived thing. It's not like because Dr. Hawkins said this or because this map of consciousness exists that we exist. No, the map of consciousness is this very beautiful thing that has basically taken the world of content, taking the world of being a human and put it into a form where we can understand that there are levels of extraction. There are levels of context. There are levels of experience. There are levels of knowingness. There are opportunities that are set and defined that if you reach them, you will experience life a certain way. You will have a relationship with God a certain way. They are definite. And classically, when we look back at religion, when we look back at sages of old reporting information, whether it's through the Upanishads or through other things, all the map of consciousness does, and the reason we use it as a shorthand and talk about it and have this particular episode of diving deeper in neutrality, and the reason it's part of If You Live It, the book, is because it gives you a definable matrix of understanding a pathway towards God. Steps, movement. We don't find God down. For all of you in the world who are watching this, who think that through sackcloth and ashes, through beating yourself and cutting your hair, through tormenting yourself and torturing yourself to find God is where you're going to find God, that's not where you find God. And when we say find God, what does that even mean? Find God. As you watch this, ask yourself, when I look around, what do I see? When I walk through my daily life, what do I see? When I have conversations with another, what do I see? Do you see the other person as separate from yourself? Do you have negative self-talk? Are you riddled with some kind of fear, some kind of anxiety? Are you carrying around guilt and grief from the past? Are you looking to the future with trepidation? Are you getting out of the moment of exactly right now where this information is being delivered to you and thinking about something that has happened or something that will happen or not having enough of this or having too much of this or being overweight this way or being underweight this way or looking at someone else and thinking they have more than you or of looking around at the world and wanting more from the world? Are you looking for happiness? Are you looking for joy? Are you riddled with guilt and fear and shame and remorse and envy and pride and anger? Are you coming from a place where life looks like it might be more beautiful today than it was tomorrow, or tomorrow more beautiful than it is right now? Are you out of this exact moment, enraptured, encaptured, encapsulated in the mind, hypnotized by thinking you're something other than God? That's what we say. That's what it's the basis of growing closer to God. As you grow closer to God, as you think of it in terms of how this scale and this map of consciousness shows you a progression towards more and more truth, more and more love, more and more possibility in your life, growing closer to God, seeing more of God, knowing God, it means that you have an opportunity in your life to not be a slave to those other things any longer, to not have to believe your belief systems, to not have to continually create opinions about yourself and the world around you, to not have to think that you're something or wonder if you're something. What we are is God. What's all around us that we see in physicality is content that arises out of a much greater context, which is God. The entire opportunity to experience this is because of consciousness. The whole reason we know we are and the reason that we're never outside of God is because consciousness is a characteristic of God as much as love. Consciousness is where we get omniscience, omnipotence, omnipresence. Consciousness is our ability to witness, observe, experience. Consciousness gives rise to choice, to opportunity, to the perception of both, to the illusion of both, to the gift that the mind and the ego are part of this human experience, which only seemingly separate us from that truth, from the truth that we are God, from the truth that the self is all things, from the truth that your I and my I and every other I in the world is the same I. From a particular vantage point, from a particular viewpoint of consciousness, there is no separateness. The world you see around you only exists in the way that you're seeing it, not as a totality of reality. Truth and reality are symbiotic. Reality springs forth from a greater context, from a greater truth. So when we say growing closer to God, what we're talking about is growing closer to the moments of realization that what you are is not separate from another. What you are is not separate from the world. And neutrality is a way that is definable to get there. If you have never experienced being okay if life goes one way and okay if it doesn't, fine if this job works out, fine if it doesn't, wonderful if your child grows a particular way and wonderful if it doesn't. If you've never experienced the power of that, it is so freeing, it is so flattering of life that should be a pathway you're choosing. That should be a level of consciousness you're moving towards. And the way this book is set up is that we are characterizing each step with regards to these levels of consciousness, where if you work these steps integrally, you will find yourself at these levels that we're talking about. And as we continue to move forward past this into step 7, and as we move forward into really finally realizing what forgiveness looks like. And since we already know what surrender looks like, and now we can add surrender and forgiveness to daily choices we're making around the clock, you will find yourself at a place where you are love. You are unconditional love for the world. You have an opportunity to reach sainthood for the world, to be a Mother Teresa, to be a Gandhi, to reach Buddhahood, Christhood. You will have the opportunity based on your karma, based on your intent, based on working these steps or another pathway. This is but one pathway, a pathway to freedom, not the only pathway to freedom. If you continue doing this work and you actually do it, you actually apply these principles, you actually work these steps, you actually learn how to surrender, you actually learn how to forgive, you apply them around the clock, you will arrive at a place where your life is nothing but gratitude, acceptance, neutrality. It's part of that path. Neutrality is a place where, for the first time, you are feeling lighter, constantly, around the clock, free to move left, right, up, down, without any real attachment to the outcome. And that's where this gift of freedom starts becoming apparent. That's where we start getting glimpses into the reality that God is present in ways that we can't quite put our fingers on yet, in a way where we see things around us in a different perspective than before. Working steps 1 through 3 creates a foundation for understanding surrender. Starting with step 4, 5, and now into 6, we're moving into a place where we are understanding forgiveness at a deeper level, where we're becoming forgiveness. Moving on into step 7, 8, 9, now we are maximizing the process of forgiveness. Now we are becoming it. Now we are becoming the change we wish to have seen in the world. When you look at the world around you, when you look at it from a news cycle, when you look at it from a social media cycle, when you listen to people try to convince you that this place is not wonderful, that it's not beautiful, that it's not perfect, you're coming from lower states of the ego. You're agreeing to believe a lie. When you work these steps, when you apply this pathway, when you arrive at a place of neutrality, you're starting to see around you that content is a lie machine. The mind is a lie machine. The ego is set up to just create one falsehood after another falsehood, after another falsehood, after another falsehood. I'm right now in this moment coming from the United States of America. I'm coming from the Northeast. I'm coming from the state of Pennsylvania. And I'm coming from a place just post-election where fear it was used to divide in some very specific ways, where fear is continually used, where gaslighting of the brain is continually used to try to create chaos, to try to create an environment where you believe the fear, where you believe the world around you is dangerous, where you believe that people are out to get you. There is a select few who are out to destroy love, out to put a wall up against it, out to put fear and chaos in every direction. But that's not reality. You don't have to believe that. You don't have to choose that. Tomorrow is not guaranteed based on today. And how the world operates is not a byproduct of politics. The world is the world. It's a perfect place to choose left or right, up or down. It does not need to be saved. It does not need to be fixed. One of the reasons we're coming to you via social media is to create another avenue, another opportunity to hear a voice that is truth, that's not based in falsehood, that's not based in lies, that's not based in trying to convince you to buy something or to do something or to be afraid of someone. I have traveled this world. I've lived in Australia. I've lived in the Arab Gulf. I've lived all over the United States. I've traveled extensively around the globe. And you know what people are? They are not how the news and social media portrays them. They are not other, separated from, less than. That's an extension of the lower mind. That's an extension of the ego. That's an extension of trying to make yourself feel better by putting someone else below you. Trying to stay stuck below another by thinking someone is greater than you. Because someone has more money than you does not make you less than. Because someone looks a certain way does not make you less than. Because you have more than another does not make you greater than. God does not care about what you have. You can't take any of this with you. The only gifts that you will be grateful you possessed when this is over is what you gave away, is of being of service, is of how much love was in your life, of how many blessings came from you, how you served God, how you sacrificed the day over, how you found Krishna dwelling in you, how you found Jesus coming out of you, how you have been of service to the world. And you are not maximizing your service to the world by believing fear any longer, by believing that we're separate any longer. And that's the gift of neutrality. The gift of neutrality is looking out at the world innately and being able to intrinsically know that what you see around you is fine. And that you can go in any direction with it because, in fact, what you are is not actually doing any of this really to begin with. And that's what you start wrestling with neutrality. You don't wrestle with it as a thought exercise. You wrestle with it because the context is now creating choices, a paradigm, a world of experience internally coming out through you that something is much greater than you ever had the idea that it was. These levels of consciousness are not things you can just choose and say, I'm going to come from this place. They're what you are. They're your entire experience of life. They're the guarantee of happiness. Growing closer to God is the greatest choice you can make in this life because everything else pales in comparison. Nothing else is as important. We are in a place that is purgatory. I don't know why. God did not consult me in that process, in this particular lifetime, to have that be part of this message. But what I do know is if you break the why apart a little bit further and you look deeper into it, one of the whys is because we have choice, a choice to choose heaven or hell in a moment, a choice to be love or to try to destroy it in a moment. Around the world right now, we have people doing their best to try and sell you fear so they can destroy the love you have for yourself and another. So they think you can be on an island of fear. The greatest gift you can give to the world, the greatest gift an American who is not excited about where this country is going to can give to the world is not buying that fear, is not peddling in that fear, is it seeing this chance right now, the way the world is presenting itself is giving me an opportunity to say out loud and internally, this is not who I am. This is not what we are. This is not what I'm about. This is not what our family is going to do. We're not going to believe this nonsense. We're not going to sit in a place where we wallow in self-misery and we buy into the victimhood mentality of, oh, we can't do anything about it. You know what you can do about it? No matter where you are in the world, no matter where you're watching this, you can choose God. You can let go of your attachment to this world. You can transcend it. And at a certain point, if your karma has reached a place where all you are here to do is to learn that you are not of this world, you can say bye to this world. Something that's happened in my life many times over is I was asked to give up everything. And I did. And all my wants were provided for. When you can let go of the belief system that you need this world in order to get or be or do anything, you will find yourself at a place where beyond neutrality, beyond willingness, beyond acceptance, beyond love, beyond unconditional love, you will reach a place where you realize what you are is God and you are in no need of anything. That this entire thing is set up to have you believe that for the purpose of choice. Always choice, 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 because the root of choice is creation. And the continual choice that we make in all moments is evolutionary process of creation. There is no this or that. It's this and that. It's not creation or evolution. It's the evolutionary process of creation. Duality and causality are mechanisms of the mind. They're mechanisms of the ego. They're mechanisms of content. They help to try to explain how a flower blooms, but a flower does not bloom because something caused it to bloom. You do not grow closer and closer to God because something caused you to. There's an internal potentiality that manifests when conditions are correct. And if you want to know more about that, check out Dr. Hawkins. But those words you can take to the bank. What you hold in mind tends to manifest. We are an infinite being capable of almost anything. But not when you stay slave to the mind, not when you believe you're the fear, not when you look around and you say, I have to fix this world. This world doesn't need you to fix it. 10 million people marching doesn't fix anything. But you can make the choice to be part of that group or not. You can make the choice to be part of the march or not. Or you can make the choice to look around in your life and not buy into the fear, not peddle it, not send messages on Facebook, on social media, on YouTube that are designed to destroy and to break down. Recently, there was a post that the Holy Spirit said to market on Facebook. And usually there's not something getting marketed on Facebook or advertised on Facebook. And the post was surrender to win. The video was surrender to win. And I saw clearly for the first time in physicality, the reality of social media being a destructive force in our society. Because all of a sudden, the way the algorithm works on social media is not if you're putting something positive out to the world that it will get to people who are looking for positivity. What it goes to is it goes towards who will interact. And it's not based on interacting towards the truth of something you're putting out. It's the interaction of negativity with it. And this post was growing and growing and growing. And I was constantly having to hide and hide and hide comments because the comments were not getting and growing in steam because of them being truthful. They were nothing but destructive, ego-based, fearful comments from people who had not watched the video, who had no idea what it was about. It was actually kind of funny. At one point, by many, I was called a molester a child molester, by people who had no idea the video was about surrendering your life over to God for the opportunity to win freedom from the ego. That's social media. That's the 24-hour news cycle. You don't need it. You don't have to reply with a comment to something to tear it down in order to make yourself feel better. Not from a place of neutrality. Are you sick and tired of being sick and tired? Are you sick and tired of buying into the nonsense that content creates? Are you over the mind? Are you over being run by the ego? Are you looking for an actual connection with God, something greater than yourself, where happiness is a byproduct, joy is a byproduct, the witnessing of miracles constantly and the synchronicities around you are byproducts, where what you see around you, you come to the realization it doesn't even exist. It's but the way that you're perceiving the world. Do you know that how you see the world is a byproduct of how you see yourself? What's left unforgiven in the world is what's left unforgiven in yourself. If you don't know that, this pathway is for you. God is for you. This life is the ultimate gift to give you the opportunity to choose God or not, to choose negativity, to choose fear, to choose calling someone a child molester because they talk about Krishna, because they talk about Jesus, because they talk about God. The funniest thing is about the way that the ego will react and attack is out of insecurity. It's never out of strength. It's never out of power. It's always this negative force that tries to tear down. Tear down what? Every one of these messages is not Mason providing it to you. These are coming directly from God. I get completely out of the way and I say, Lord, to thee, this body, this mouth, talkingness, these words are surrendered over. May they be yours with not Mason present. And then the Holy Spirit just starts teaching, just starts communicating. You too can have the same opportunity where you're not present. God does the talking. Love does the interacting. The Holy Spirit of God is what comes through you for the world. You don't have to any longer from this moment forward believe that whoever you are is what you actually are, because you're not. Your name, your body, your face, what you see in the mirror is not you. It's just an illusion. And when you finally see that, the game, you realize, is not rigged. And if it's rigged in any particular way, it's rigged towards everything being God. So no matter what you do, you will always end up choosing God. No matter how many lifetimes you live, inevitably the process points back towards God, because all is. There is nothing outside of God. There's no possibility that anything exists outside of God, for if it did, we wouldn't even know about it. We wouldn't even be part of being able to touch it. The greater context of all things is God, out of which our little piddly content in this singular world arises. Another reality is this is one of an infinite amount of realities, an infinite amount of worlds, an infinite amount of possibilities, an infinite amount of choices within an infinite amount of ways to choose within an infinite amount of opportunities to explore the reality of God present. Right now, watching this, there's an infinite other choosing, populating, part of realms and dimensions, going out in all directions at all times, at an infinite speed than what you have awareness of currently. Your particular lens of awareness is watching this video, is listening to this words, is thinking you're whatever your name is, whatever you look like, man, woman, whatever it is, wherever you are in the world. But if you don't even know that, how can you continue to choose or even think you have a choice other than how we're presenting it today right now, to transcend the mind, to transcend the ego, so you can even have the option to even know that. Neutrality is a step in that pathway. Courage is a major step in that pathway. Where we're moving to in these higher levels are expressions of God in a way that what you thought you were your entire life, you'll realize you're not. You cannot have a moment in time with an ultimate reality of God and be the same past that. This pathway will help you, deliver you, to that place where you look back and you see the absolute gift that was neutrality and how it was absolutely needed to reach a place of motivation for the world, of inspiration for the world, of being loved for the world, of forgiving them for they're not what they do. And the two major tools that you need in order to take this and your life all the way to God is surrender and forgiveness. And we're right in the middle of learning how to truly forgive. What you see out in the world that you don't like is what you don't like internally about yourself. You can see nothing outside of you that isn't something you're seeing inside of yourself. And the mind and the ego, the entire mechanism of both is to keep you hypnotized to the thoughts, feelings, emotions, to think you're those things, so that you're not actually investigating the fact that what you see in the world is what you see inside. This pathway is designed to move you past those beliefs, to give you a definable way to see truth, to come to the realization that the mind in and of itself cannot tell truth from falsehood. It just uploads content. And if you do not look at it, if you do not work through it, if you don't create the inventory, if you don't talk about it, if you don't give it to God, if you don't surrender your life over, you continue in this spiral, in this matrix of this purgatorial existence where you think that getting the next thing is what's important. It's what's giving the next thing that's important. It's in letting go of your attachment to the word mine, into believing you can own anything. Everything is given to you for the express purpose of having what you need in order to be what's next. You are in control of nothing. It's an illusion. You are not a victim. You came into this life for an express purpose of having the reality to be able to work off the karma you needed to move into what's next. If you find yourself in hell, if you find yourself looking around and it's torture, and you find yourself looking at the world around you and blaming God for where you are, don't blame God. God didn't do this to you. Everything happens for you. It doesn't happen to you. You chose to come into this body. You chose to come into this life. And the moment that you realize that you are not this body and not this life, you will start transcending it, and maybe you won't have to be here any longer. But if you continue to think you are these things that you see around you, you will not be coming from a place of neutrality. If you choose to scoff at surrender, if you choose to laugh at forgiveness, and you will not enjoy a life. You'll have these moments of absolute dopamine hits where you're putting yourself above another, but that's not joy. You won't be happy. You won't actually know how to love another more than you love yourself. You'll have to come back here and do it again and again and again and again for lifetimes, for millennia. For here it appears there is a thing called time. But this place just arises out of a context that is without time. And so eternity, you could do this lifetime 1 billion times if you stay stuck thinking you are what you see in the mirror. This pathway is such a gift because I didn't create it. The original 12 steps were a gift to the inevitable creator of Alcoholics Anonymous. A white light moment delivered directly from a power beyond imagination into content for the purpose of transcending alcoholism. And the gift that you have them for is the opportunity to transcend your ego, your belief systems, the mind, humanness, and reach something far greater and not have to come back here. When you expire here, if you have transcended humanness, you will not come back to a place that's not heavenly unless you've agreed with God for some reason to have to come back here in order to continue working off karma. But you won't find yourself in the same position. You won't find yourself in the same body. You won't find yourself in the same place. You can't leave here calibrating from a level of love or unconditional love and come back here without the opportunity to then move into a world where enlightenment is possible. You don't evolve evolutionarily. You don't go back unless you choose a life of backwards thinking, choose a life of non-integrity, choose a life of chasing after getting from the world. The greatest gift you can give to the world, the choice you can make right now that will change your entire life, is by simply saying to God, I choose you, God. I don't even know what that quite looks like, but please help me see it. Please help me move towards you in a way where my entire life is recontextualized, where I have an entire different mechanism of choices at my disposal that point towards you and nothing else. Chase after God with a reckless abandon, and you arrive at the doorstep where it will be between you and God and your karma and the intent you have and the ability you have to not stop choosing God. If you take truth, choose God, only love around the clock, you will know you're not this body, not this mind, not this world. You will see that social media is fake, that it sells you something, that the news is a lie, and not a lie that means that all news is not telling truth. It means that the news doesn't come from a place of context to help you understand the levels of abstraction or the levels of truth that it's coming from. And very rarely does it actually say what its motivation is, what its agenda is, what it's actually trying to sell you. Don't look to the news for truth of how you experience God. Don't look to social media as what reality is. Look inside, look within. Ask God to show you. Or come back here and do this again and again and again and again. I wouldn't recommend it. It's your choice. Yeah.